earth did they find all these things, or did they make all these things? Because there are literally tens of thousands of objects in that house.
Vi har plockat ihop allting som vi tycker är vackert. Och vi har satt samman karelska fönster och vilda västern dörrar och New Orleans arkitektur och franska fönster, vad du vill, empire, rokoko. Och det underliga var att på något sätt gick det bra ihop, därför att det var gjort med lek och entusiasm.
It's quite extraordinary to think that two ladies already almost 60 start playing, building things basically just for fun. Pentti Eistola had built a small Moominhouse after reading Moominland Midwinter.
Otin yhteyttä Tove Janssoniin ja kysyin, että jos hän on kiinnostunut tämmöisestä talosta. Sanoin, että joo, ja sitten mä tulin talon kainalossani tänne.
And then followed a tradition that was to last for several years.
Meillä oli lauantai-iltoja, joita me kutsuttiin lekkvällar. Siinä oli Ham, Toven äiti, Tove ja Tuulikki ja minä. Ja sitten Tove rupesi rakentamaan tätä aitaa, joka on tämän ympärillä. Meillä oli hyvin hauskaa.
Tove's mother and the family maid were a little bit worried that Tove and Tuuti didn't eat enough. So they brought food, and then they all gathered around. They started calling Saturday evenings for the play evening, when they played. Tove and Tuuti were very playful, always, and it was, I think, a sort of a way to relax from the seriousness of work. They had so much fun. So the play evenings turned out, in the end, to be more than just an evening a week.
There are many secret back doors in the Moominhouse. But naturally, we first enter through the front door, up the wide steps to the veranda. We come straight into the kitchen. The doors are always unlocked, even when the family is away, for example at sea. It is a large, friendly room where everybody is welcome to come and enjoy the warmth of a real kitchen, the heart of the home.
During their play evenings, they also decided to invite different people to play with them. And of course, hence I was invited a few times. I was allowed to come. There was a lot of stuff going on and everybody was left to kind of work on their own thing. But at the same time, it was a very nice atmosphere of sort of talking and, just sharing time, basically. It was their passion for playing that really was the secret behind it being so wonderful.
Up the stairs from the kitchen, we come to the drawing room, where we get an idea of the Moomins' respect for things that last, for beautiful objects and tradition, even though owning things isn't all that important to them.
It's a little bit of a sort of 18th century living room with, easy chairs and chandeliers and thick curtains in velvet and a fireplace where, of course, the forefather lives behind the fireplace. And I remember vividly as a child coming here and that being the most fascinating thing and looking at all the details because obviously every week there was something new. So one day, Tove and Tuuti had a visitor from Bratislava who thought the house was just amazing. And they were about to open a section for children for the Illustration Biennale in Bratislava. So she asked if they could please have a Moominhouse for this exhibition. And of course, Tove and Tuuti thought, oh yeah, no problem.
It started as a cellar, tools, small items, scale items, mini scale items, and with the jars of jam and stuff like that. Finally, it was 2 meters high, the whole Moominhouse.
The shape of the Moominhouse in the books is cylindrical. I'm not sure, but I think it was Pentti Eistola who said, it's quite hard to build a cylindrical playhouse. And so they started building a house that wasn't necessarily square or anything. In the end, I don't think it bothered them because I think they felt it was a sort of creative extension of the Moomin universe. The Moominhouse, in the way that we think about it, is more sort of a symbol of something much greater than just the walls around the space that we today, think of as a house. In the Moomin books, Tove talks about how the Moominhouse the door is always open, which of course is also a much larger concept than just a door being open. It meant that anybody was welcome. It was a space where you could be yourself. You were free to be yourself and feel safe.
Let's take a peek into Moominmamma's room next to the drawing room. She has chosen her own wallpaper and was keen for an angled ceiling to convey a sense of coziness as well as a hint of adventure.
Moominmamma, she's very much more into the small spaces, but at the same time a certain kind of feminine beauty that she perceives as an atmosphere or an area that makes her feel calm.
It is early summer now, and the night sky is light. Before Moominmamma goes to bed, she walks around the whole house saying goodnight to everyone and making sure they have squash and apples for the night. Moominpappa pours himself a glass of homemade apple wine. All sorts of guests sleep on the roof or veranda or terrace or whatever snug nook they may have found. To get to Moominpappa's room, Moominmamma goes through the saloon doors at the far side of the drawing room, then emerges onto the north-facing balcony, where she pauses for a while and gazes down at the garden. Then takes the steep external staircase to another door, back into the house, walks over the bridge in the stairwell, and comes to Moominpappa's terrace, where a ladder leads up to his command deck. This might all sound rather complicated if you've never walked it yourself, but it's generally a good idea not to simply walk out of one room and into the next through a single door. Anybody can do that, and people do, all the time, without even thinking about it. In Moominpappa's room, the south wall is pieced together from wreckage found washed up on beaches, and to the east he opted for no wall at all. Instead, there is only a balustrade, which he calls the gunwale. Sometimes the trees in the valley look like vast waves in the moonlight. When heavy rain hits the floor, it feels like being on the deck of a ship.
And so Moominpappa's room, of course, is like a part of a ship, because he's really the big adventurer. He's not a pirate, but he's an adventurer, and he's been at sea, and so his space needs to reflect his nature of being this essentially very free individual it's all about fulfilling his dreams.
Once Moominmamma has said goodnight to Moominpappa, she goes back inside the house and walks up 3 hidden staircases. First, she comes to the loggia, of which the family is very proud. It's an unusual construction, which does let drafts in during bad weather, but gives the facade a sense of airiness and freedom. Then she comes up to the tower that houses the guest room, where friends sleep here and there, wherever they want, sometimes several in a row on the floor. is already very tall, but above the guest room there is another tower, commonly referred to as the lighthouse, because a beacon shines there day and night, visible all the way to the coast, so that anyone sailing past knows that here is Moominvalley. No one goes up there except to refill the gas for the light. Moominmamma is too heavy to go all the way up. She takes a break to catch her breath. Then she crosses the loggia and goes to check on the children in the large attic room. Moominmamma makes sure everyone has what they need, but never says anything about it being late or that they need to stop reading and turn off the lights.
Building a playhouse that's about 2.5 meters tall and, I don't know, maybe 1 meter in diameter is no easy feat, and they needed a lot of material.
The family house is built of pine, spruce, mahogany, some rosewood and jacaranda, and, in special cases, balsa and pearwood. In addition to ordinary Finnish granite and greystone, they have used sandstone, which is easy to work with and can be found on the beach. Their chimney is made of brick, naturally, and is very tall. It is crowned in honor of the proud plumes of smoke of the Mississippi ships.
The roof of the house was quite extraordinary because you have these little sort of wooden, very thin, I think they were balsa wood, wooden slats that they covered the roof with. I think they were glued with a glue that then somehow came through because they were very thin, the little wooden slats, and discolored them. Of course, they had to take them all off and redo it because they were also both perfectionists, needless to say, and there could be no such thing as a, colored slat on the roof.
Little by little, more and more people were involved with this house and with furnishing and with plates and forks and lamps and rugs and mattresses and pillows and curtains and all kinds of stuff which were needed in the house.
I remember, this sort of summoning of anybody in the family or in their group of acquaintances and friends to actually acquire and accrue materials.
I think finally there were altogether almost 50 people had participated with this process. My parents' architectural office, there were about 20 people who all were preparing some little things. My mother baked the rye breads and so forth. So it was a nice process.
And it was actually quite amazing. I think everybody really sort of went out of their way to find all kinds of materials for this house. And you can see it in the end result because it's incredibly detailed.
it's a collection of different parts of the world, because before the house, Tove and Tuuti went sort of around the world, made a trip around the world. And Tuuti was then picking up all kinds of pieces, different windows and eaves and doors and facades. There are New Orleans windows and so you can see the same windows in some of her graphic sheets. So it's a combination of everything.
Paris was one of their favorite destinations, and they would always go to the marché aux puces, and to the flea market, because they could find anything in the flea market that might suit the Moominhouse. But every time I see it, I keep thinking, how on earth did they find all these things, or did they make all these things? Because there are literally tens of thousands of objects in that house. It was, several weeks of preparation, because obviously it was very, very fragile, and how to package it so that it wouldn't break in transit. The rooms were removable so that it could actually be packaged and sent. And then when it actually got to Bratislava, they spent weeks repairing it. And the same thing when it came back.
Genom den här leken har vi försökt realisera en egen privat dröm. Och det är att man inte ska bo fyrkantigt, utan man dekorerar, man pryder, man utformar sitt hus till och med romantiskt. Men som man själv har lust att leva och bo. Det finns en ny drive, och de unga arkitekterna är trötta på sina lådhus. Och nu börjar de bygga mera yvigt och äventyrligt och detaljerat. Alltså hus där man kan trivas.
It was an amazing manifestation of their play evenings and what something like that can evolve into. I somehow wish that we would all, maintain this playfulness that Tove and Tuuti had, and Pentti as well, and of course originally Ham, and keep making things, because it's so nice to make things with your hands. And if you can do it together with other people, and have fun doing it, it's all the better, and something we should really all start doing if we are not doing it yet.
There is one more room, but it is nailed shut. It's located in the tower structure outside Moominpappa's room and has 2 small square windows. If you have a torch, you can peek inside. This is where the family keeps their precious stones, pearls, gold, and all sorts of treasures that they have found underwater or on land. It isn't exactly a secret, but they believe that very special, beautiful things should be kept at least a little hidden, and there should always be somewhere that no one ever goes, even if they know it's there.
And they were always laughing and having a good time, and it was just, I think it serves as a good reminder. Life doesn't have to be just about duty. It can also be about play. I mean, yeah, it's easy to say for me, but and I do understand that people can't arrange their lives so they can play every evening, but I think it's something they did to balance the seriousness of life also, and the seriousness of hard and terrible things. And you have to remember that they were a generation that had actually lived through the war, and the playing was a form of therapy as well. The fact that they worked with their hands was a way of keeping a clear mind about what was important in life.
Then finally Moominmamma goes back down to her kitchen and makes sure there is milk for the cat and any other small creatures that happen to be in the house. She's usually rather hot after her long walk, so sometimes she likes to sit down on the rug and open the hatch down to the cellar where the air is nice and cool. Then she goes to bed. She doesn't usually bother with the bottom floor. She says that the doors are too narrow for her. Anybody sleeping in the workshop, sauna, net room, or the long corridor carved into the rock that cuts through the house can take whatever food and drink they need for the night from the cellar. Gradually the house goes quiet and all the lights are turned off one by one, except the lighthouse beacon, of course. What else is there to say? Perhaps only that I hope that you too will be inspired to build and play and try to create whatever it is you dream of.